Hello again and welcome to the Coffee Break. Today, on the Coffee Break, we'll be starting your week off right by discussing 3 powerful new interactions made possible by murders at Karlov Manor. To start things off, let's talk about an easily achievable turn 2 win, something MKM has provided us. This is all thanks to Leyline of the Guild Pact, which turns our lands into every basic land type and can be played for free before the game even begins, so long as it's in our opening hand. From here, all one has to do is preferably go first and start on a Karplusan Forest or a Copperline Gorge and play a Cacophony Scamp to the board. On turn 2, you need to play any untapped green source and follow that up by attacking with the Cacophony Scamp. At this point, assuming the Scamp gets through, all you need to do is cast 2 Gaia's Might on the Cacophony Scamp, increasing its power to 11. Once it's done its 11 combat damage, its ability will then trigger, allowing you to sacrifice it and proliferate. This you want to do. Presumably, the proliferate won't be doing much by itself, but considering Cacophony Scamp died, its other ability will trigger, allowing you to deal damage to your opponent's face, equal to its power. This will add up to 22 before your opponent has played their second land. However, in all of those cases where you don't get the nut draw, you don't get to go first, or your opponent can somehow stop you on their turn 1.5, not all is lost. And that's because a lot of the other cards in the Leyline Zoo deck also show a lot of promise, cards that we've had access to for a while but have never broken out, things like Radha's Firebrand and Nishoba Brawler, which both also work very well with a turn 1 Leyline and a Gaia's Might. But on to the next interaction, which involves an infinite combo in Standard with, of all things, Merfolk. Forensic Researcher is a card that not many people have paid attention to for murders at Karlov Manor, and it's easy enough to see why. We've seen plenty of blue creatures before that can untap other things. However, in this case, we mostly wanted to untap another copy of itself. The trick here is to have 2 Forensic Researches on the table at the same time that you have a Deeproot Pilgrimage on the table. Pilgrimage reads that whenever 1 or more merfolk you control become tapped, you get another merfolk in the form of a 1/1 token. This means that if you have 2 Forensic Researchers out, you can use them to untap one another. Simply tap the first one to untap a land, and then use the second one to untap the first one. Use the first one to untap the now tapped second one, and so forth and so on. Each of these taps will create a merfolk for you. And if you know math, you know that that is in fact infinite merfolk. There are multiple ways you can build this clunky looking yet surprisingly effective combo. For one, you could go all in on the merfolk theme, playing cards like Cenote Scout as decent early game pieces, as well as interactive pieces like Voldalian Hexmage and Tishana's Tidebinder. One way or the other, you will very likely want to play a lot of other creatures, not just Forensic Researchers. It is very difficult to get 2 Forensic Researchers on the table at the same time. However, Agatha's Soul Cauldron can help us solve this problem easily. It effectively turns all of our creatures with +1/+1 counters into Forensic Researchers, making the combo much easier to assemble than it originally appears. And of course, in case you wanted more copies of Forensic Researcher, you can simply play Deep Fathom Echo, which will function as copies 5 through 8. It is also worth noting that although a lot of people build this deck Simic, you don't have to play the green at all. For example, if you were to play this deck in Jeskai colors, you could always assemble the combo with a War Leader's Call on the table, which will effectively deal infinite damage to your opponent. Also in Jeskai is the excellent Nahiri's Resolve, which will give all of your 1/1s haste. However, if you must keep the green in the deck, there is also the excellent new Yaris, Roar of the Old Gods, to consider. This card is mostly meant as a disguise payoff for decks in both Limited and to a lesser extent Standard, but note that just like Nahiri's Resolve, it also gives all of your creatures haste. But it is now time to move on to our third and final interaction, made possible by murders at Karlov Manor. This is yet another infinite combo, but this one not available in Standard. However, it is available in Pioneer, Timeless, Modern, and EDH, and it's one I think you need to look out for. This one involves the powerful new Crime Novelist, a card from MKM that's getting an awful lot of press, and for a good reason. This is a 3-mana goblin that says whenever you sacrifice an artifact, not only does it get a +1/+1 counter, but you also add a red mana. This card actually made multiple infinite combos possible the moment it hit the streets. However, the one I'd like to focus on today is what I believe to be not only the most reasonable of these combos, but also the one that is likely to hit the greatest number of formats. And that is Animation Module. This is a 1-mana artifact that says whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are placed on a permanent you control, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. The mere sacrificing of any artifact on your side of the table will trigger a chain reaction, wherein Crime Novelist triggers, getting a +1/+1 counter and adding a red mana. Since a creature got a +1/+1 counter, Animation Module triggers, and you can pay the 1 mana that you got from Crime Novelist to get yourself another artifact creature. This of course means that if you can then sacrifice the servo that resulted from the Animation Module's trigger, then you can get another +1/+1 counter on the Crime Novelist, add a red mana, and trigger the Animation Module, doing it all over again. If there can be said to be an issue with this combo, it is that it needs another card to be plugged into it, one that allows you to sacrifice artifacts freely, but there are quite a few options in that department. For one, if you're trying to make this deck a real thing in Pioneer, you might want to try Bartolomé del Presidio. This allows you to sacrifice artifacts freely and keep the combo going. Playing Bart in Pioneer also just happens to put you in the same color combination as War Leader's Call. We just looked at this card for the last combo, but it does the same thing here. All the servos that you bring into play will trigger War Leader's Call. You have a cheap and easy win. However, when we shift focus to EDH, this combo then becomes easier than beating your grandmother at Candyland. Not my grandmother. She never let me win the way yours did. Simply plug in Blasting or Grinding Station, or perhaps an Ashnod's Altar, and suddenly you've got either infinite mill, infinite damage, or infinite mana. Grinding Station is especially noteworthy here, as in a game of Commander you could theoretically play Module on turn 1, Grinding Station on turn 2, and then win the game on turn 3 by resolving a Crime Novelist. That is all for this Monday's Coffee Break. I hope the rest of your week is magical. Don't forget to like the video and check us out on Patreon. And of course, Dev himself will be returning tomorrow with a Jeskai Burn deck tech. Thanks again for watching, Wizards. I'm Coffee Break Dev from The Place. Spread love and be kind. However, when it comes to EDH, this combo becomes easier to assemble than beating your grandmother. Let's just stop there.